All right. Welcome to the March UI interest group meeting, everyone. It's good to see you all again. I am I've lost my tab that had the agenda in it. Let me bring that up real quick. All right, we will get started. We have a lot of UI changes that have happened recently. We have a lot of pending changes. Lots of stuff to talk about, and I'm hoping I want to go through the bug list and kind of take a look at that since Feedback Fest is coming up, and I'm very excited about that. But I'm hoping that we have a little time also to chat about toasts and error messages again. And I think that ties into some work that Susan has been doing with the permissions working group. And probably the cataloging group is also interested in where we're going with that. Let me share my screen. I always forget to do this, and then you all end up staring at my face for the entire hour that we're here. Okay. Our agenda. Some stuff that has happened since we last met is that the big item alerts, notes, and tags and templates project got finished. Thank the Lord. Jason and I were both exhausted by that project and are glad that it went in. A little scared at the bug reports that might come in on those new interfaces because it was a fairly major bit of surgery. Hoping that the feedback has so far been positive, but of course we haven't gotten too far into testing yet, so hoping that goes smoothly. There are a ton of things, and I haven't even gotten around to posting this list to the comments on the bug yet, because we've been slinging branches so fast this past week. But there are a lot of bugs that got fixed in addition to the ones that the branch was intended to fix. We had to do kind of a lot of scaffolding work in some of our other components. This one, I will say, has a bug that is showing up in the console right now. I have a branch open in another tab where I'm working on fixing that, and I'm hoping to get that done today or tomorrow so that we can get that in place on the testing servers, and that doesn't throw red flags that it doesn't need to when we're testing other things. So if you're seeing some sort of validation error on org selects, that's why. Yeah. Some grid stuff got taken care of. Some accessibility stuff got taken care of. The new error component got done as part of that work, sort of, but it was a side track. It wasn't part of the specification. And in my next bullet, you see it did not quite make the cut into 315, or at least it hasn't yet, but it has new strings, so it won't. All of these things pretty much are waiting on the next release cycle. So those are the big new features that we had talked about in our last meeting, and most of those are not quite there yet. And then I posted this link here to yesterday's cataloging interest group meeting because I did another big roundup of the cataloging related bugs, specifically the stuff that we're seeing in the Mark Rich editor and the Z3950. There's some issues with the overlays. And I did a status update for them on all of those. The short version is there are about half of them that have patches. Several of them are signed off and just need a shove between now and Monday so that we can get them tested. There's one or two more that I'm hoping to get out the door in the next couple days. And then there's like 4 that are sort of outstanding. And I plan to look into those 4, but if anybody wants to get there first, please feel free. Does anybody have any questions or comments about any of that so far? And I can't see the comment list easily, so okay. I'm gonna move right along. I'm sure Taryn has a spreadsheet, and I see that, yes, she's got it linked in chat. This is my little spreadsheet of all the stuff that I have patched in the past few weeks. And there's a few things in here that I picked up that I need to review that other folks have put in, but there's like about 30 sort of minor UI and accessibility related branches pending that don't have string changes and could still go in. Does anybody want to talk about any of those or look at anything on that list? That's a lot. Okay. Hearing nothing, I'm going to move along. Please stop me if I'm steamrolling past something you wanted to talk about. So let me go back up. Well, no, I'll just link it right here. We had talked last month about potentially using the built-in Bootstrap form validation styles. And one thing we had noted was that they are overwhelming when every field uses them. But the branch I've got in progress uses these only on required fields. It's a little not, it's not as overwhelming when it's only one or two. I think on this field, all of them are required, and that's why this is all showing up the way that it is. My question for you all is, as I was going through the items, alerts, and notes project, I found myself kind of taking some of these things that had originally been set up as toast messages and trying to put them in to the form itself as a little inline thing. And I wondered if we could identify some other things. I know we don't have this. We don't have this yet. Are you seeing the Bootstrap thing, or did I only share my Google Doc?
No, we're seeing the Bootstrap as well.
Okay, good. We don't exactly have this set up yet in the sense that our forms do not use these Bootstrap styles, but we do have the styles. The style sheet is there. And so I kind of hooked into some of those styles sort of manually. And we can do that. My thought is, though, that even if we have to write our own style to make this look right, we could probably identify some of these toasts that are not at the user's locus of attention when they're off in the corner and the user is working on a form. And I bet that some of them would be better as inline feedback. Does that make sense?
Can you go back to Bootstrap real quickly?
Yep.
So you're referring to the things below the input field.
Right.
Okay.
Please choose a username, please select a valid state, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
So can you, well, no, you don't need to. I'm assuming that it essentially has a prompt there. And then once you fill it out however you're supposed to, that then it has that kind of successy type behavior.
Yeah. Let me go down here and
which
show
could be
you.
more or less based on what we decide.
Right. So what you do is you really provide both the valid feedback and the invalid feedback messages in the HTML, and then they're hidden automatically until you validate the form. However you do that, whether it's by submitting or having it automatically done when you move your focus away from the field, there's different triggers there. But then if it's a required
That would
field,
be,
then you get the
Susan
feedback.
has a great point in chat.
Oh, good. Let me see.
Says maybe in the library settings editor when you're editing a setting out of context.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I really think that throughout the field mapper editor, uh, that would be really useful.
Would it but it'll be really hard to put into the field into any like procedurally generated field mapper editors, right? Because we can't put the HTML in there directly
We can.
because it's already we can't
We
have.
can. There's two different ways to do it. There is there's a mechanism for help text. Let me pull up the field mapper editor. Can you all see my code or are you still on?
Code.
Excellent. All right. Okay.
We're on the Bootstrap example code.
Oh, no. Okay.
The Bootstrap page, but we don't see like if you open an editor or anything.
It might be just be sharing that
Yep.
window,
Yep.
not that screen.
Yep. Let me stop that and share. Here we go.
Noise.
There's a bug in front of my face. Sorry if I'm waving my hand in a distracting way. Okay. So there is a help text that can be assigned to the field. And in automatically generated screens, you can still add this using the field options. There is also, let me go down here. There is a way to append a template area. Let me go down all of these case values. Yes, append template. So you can put in a whole chunk of stuff below the field if you want.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. I think.
So I am
Go ahead.
100% in favor of this. I am also aware of a potential problem, which I think we discussed last time, which is on a really big page. You need something to direct you towards the field where the problem is.
Yes. So my thought is that we would use this in conjunction with the error summary.
Sounds good.
Awesome. And I think that even though these help and append things are already built in, I think for the field mapper, it would make sense for us to just write in some new logic to say, here's the valid feedback message. Here's the invalid feedback message. And there could be an array of them, or an object, I guess, depending on if you need to specify, there are 5 different things you could have done to make this invalid, and we want to tell you exactly which one you did. We could do that. But I think this field mapper and the basic admin page are the two interfaces where we sort of generate a lot of stuff automatically. And that's where we would probably want to hook up some logic to show these in a sensible way. Everywhere else, we kind of build our fields by hand, and it wouldn't be a big deal to, let me go back to the Bootstrap example. It wouldn't be a terribly big deal to go into the HTML itself and just do what Bootstrap is doing here, which is we have a little div for the invalid feedback and one for the valid feedback. And then we control the conditions on which those appear and disappear.
Yes.
So what
Does that mean that we'll have like a big going through of like every field mapper field to like make the invalidity message? Or every like type of data type to give them a unique invalidity message?
I don't think most of them even need unique messages. I think a lot of them are just, this must be filled in. And some of the components, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's absolutely fine to take an incremental approach here. Move the error messages to go by the field. And if it's a completely generic error message that's like, there is a problem with this field, it doesn't say anything useful, and people can't figure out what the problem is, they will let us know and it will get fixed eventually. But even that starting point of moving, there is a problem with this field, is better than there is a problem somewhere on this record, go find the field yourself.
Right.
And a much easier thing to fix as well when they say, hey, yo, some more information be nice. Well, it's very explicit where that goes.
Right.
Yeah. So I would say it would be lovely if every single place that could possibly generate an error when filling out a form had the perfect language. But even if we make no improvements to the language, switching to this would be a big benefit. And we can improve the language slowly over time.
That was my thought. Yeah.
This also would be a really good beginning code contribution type project.
Yes.
Because of it has to be done a zillion times. And it's pretty transparent on how to do it in the code.
I think so. And what I've put here as these links are searches to the code itself on the GitHub site, because it's easier to search the code there than
oh yeah, beautiful.
On our Git server. But yeah, I just searched for every instance of, here's toast.danger. That's the red one. Let me go back. Toast.success. You usually see danger and success as a pair. They're almost always side by side like this.
And I envision a day when there's like 0 lower right-hand corner toast messages, and it will be an amazing day.
Yes, that is my goal as well.
So good.
I want developer-facing stuff to go in the console or in the logs, and I want user-facing stuff to be next to the input that caused the error. Yeah, exactly. I love this one. Danger test. This is the sandbox. That's why it's like that. Sorry, I didn't mean to go back and forth. I hit something and there we go. Okay. Well, that was easy. So you can see on these code searches, we have about 90-ish success messages, and I think there were like 79 or 80 dangers. 77, yeah. That's kind of low. Like, we actually probably need a lot more of these once we figure out how to make them specific and attach them to specific fields. I think a lot of these are
thinking that
very
there
generic.
are some things where the current toast is a problem because it's so far away from the thing, but where also I'm not convinced that this approach is going to work. And I'm thinking of when you're working with a stream of things like on item status, where you scan a barcode, you scan a barcode, you scan a barcode, and then maybe you select 5 things from that list and apply a thing like place hold or mark is missing or something like that. I almost wonder if it's like maybe a toast is still the best thing, but it could be in a better place and easier to see.
So I think in that situation, if we have like a batch of stuff, would it be more appropriate to open a dialogue and say, here's the 5 things that you did. For each one, here's success or error.
I like that.
Yeah.
That seems good.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not obvious how what we were just looking at would apply. But
Mm-hmm.
also, I dislike the toasts there, so I thought I would bring it up because I have their toasts I've been seeing for years without knowing I was seeing them. Like they were in my peripheral vision.
Mm-hmm. That's the biggest problem with them, is that they're not where you're looking. Yeah. Okay. So I will make a note as we work through this and we kind of shift to this mindset that maybe we need to think about using dialogues more in batches and get away from toasts there. Okay. I will kind of leave this here for now and maybe come back to it. Unless, Susan, did you want to share real quick? Is there anyone here who wasn't also in the permissions group who might be interested in that big spreadsheet? Is Susan still here? No, Susan's not here. Oh, yeah, she is.
Oh, yeah.
You're here. Yay. You had a spreadsheet. In fact, you had like 3 or 4 spreadsheets yesterday of permissions.
So many spreadsheets. Which
Love
one
all
would
of
you
your
like?
spreadsheets. They're amazing. Do you want to drop in some links so that, because I think that this work overlaps with the work that you're doing on permissions, because obviously a permissions error is something that's going to trigger some sort of message. And we probably have some silent failures happening there that would be better off with some messages. And I want to kind of tie all of that work together so that we can catch our silent failures, our errors that are in the wrong place, and our permissions related errors. Thank you. There's the doc.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And in the actual like category tabs is where I started recording the permission alert message, or if there was one at all.
Beautiful.
But there's a lot of missing information obviously in these.
That's fantastic.
I don't want to go too far afield, so somebody drag me back if I do. But what you're just talking about reminded me of something that if an individual does not have view permissions, oftentimes it just opens up an empty grid.
Ooh.
And this may have changed in some, but I encountered it recently. And was able to add my own permissions. It was a test system. And so it was pretty easily alleviated, but there's nothing that says why it's actually just showing an empty grid. Like, is there literally no data? Is there, so there's nothing that says you don't have permission to view this. I mean, it'd be better to not even open the thing and just come up with an error message, something.
Right. But we could at least add something in the grid component to the little no
So
data
I don't know
message.
if, I mean, that's kind of like a toast or a dialogue would be appropriate as opposed to the inline form.
Well, in this case, though, I would suggest that where the grid says, no data found or whatever it says, I forget what the
It says
exact
literally
wording is.
nothing. It's just an empty grid.
Oh my God.
Yeah, absolutely nothing.
So we can adjust that.
And they're
in the
mostly
grid
admin
component.
interfaces.
Right.
Yeah. And actually with the Angular reports, I think there is like, I don't know if it would be called an inline, but if you don't have the permissions, it actually just says you do not have the permissions.
Beautiful.
And that's really nice. Like it's not a pop-up, it's just there. So I liked that. I'm trying to find.
So I wonder if that wouldn't actually be useful in those other places.
I don't remember if we have a bug for that. Let me look at our
If
grid
not, I
bugs
can
real
go
quick.
ahead and submit one. I can do some more
Sure.
digging to uncover those. I don't want somebody else to have to do that work.
I think let me look at the grid tag because that seems to be, we have a grid tag and we have the empty states tag, and I think both of those would be good for this. And we can just say the grid's empty state really should say, if you got this empty state because you don't have permission, we can tell you that. don't
Yeah, I'll
think.
just kind of go through and do an audit
Okay.
of those admin interfaces.
BW Mars is on a pretty old Evergreen, but I've run into this a lot when I poke at around in admin interfaces. And one of the things that can be particularly frustrating is I don't know if there's no data, if I don't have
Exactly.
permission to see the data, or is the data loading slowly? Like
That
all
is
three of those
exactly the
seem
issue. Yes.
sensible. And so it's like, do I stand here and wait? Do I ask
Mhm.
someone to run a report for me? Um,
Yep.
Or
it makes
just
it
give
very
you
hard
view
to know
permission.
what's the next step.
Yes. Some of that is tied into the other work that I want to do on the grid. In order to get the progress bar to report what it's doing a little bit more carefully, we need a few more pieces in place in the IDL. And we have kind of a long list of IDL changes that Mike and I both want to make and just haven't had time to dig into yet. But he's got a new attribute for fields, or I guess, no, it's on the table for cardinality. And it's kind of, I think it's high, medium, and low. And it really just says, how big do we expect this table to be? And that way we can say whether or not we can give you an estimated row count, which is going to be super helpful to figure out if your query just didn't return anything. And we can also figure out for like low and medium, those are relatively safe to show options in a combo box dropdown. But then anything that's high, we don't want to estimate the number of rows and we don't want to try to show it in a combo box. So those are like the history logs, for example, where that table can be kind of an infinite length potentially. I don't think that cardinality has been applied to all of the tables in the IDL yet. So that's one piece that we need to put in. And we wanted to put that in the IDL so that people can overwrite it for their specific instances. I know that one thing that came up when we were testing item alerts and notes was that people wanted the, I think it was the tag type. They wanted to see the combo box drop down, and on that system we said no because the cardinality was set to tell us that there were too many. And we kind of looked at a lot of data of some of our clients and said no, they really do have too many types to even show it in a combo box. But if your system has fewer, you totally could. You would just have to change the cardinality in the IDL. And then that's one piece that we need. And then there's another bug about adding something to the IDL to show both singular and plural human readable names for what that table shows. And that way we can add that language of, you know, we found X number of things. Right now we just don't have that. And so we have to go through and add some more human text to that file first.
But does that mean I could search for like the human words instead of
Yes.
AOU?
Mhm.
Wow.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Oh, Stephen,
Silly human.
you wanting to be all human and everything.
Yes, there is a bug for that, and I have a spreadsheet for it. One moment while I pull that up. I have a flag on my big accessibility spreadsheet for the things that need IDL work. Here it is. Whoa. So this one has a bunch of comments on it, and the upshot is that we just need to have something in the IDL that says this is the singular name, this is the plural version. And so if anybody wants to grab that and work on it, that would be delightful. you can probably find out what all of those codes mean by searching through the SQL files to figure out what the grid settings are called.
The
but
table persist name is generally good enough
yeah,
by like getting the SQL table names, but that sure isn't a pretty look, and you have to do brain work to figure out what that is.
and it might be
And then
that,
some of them are still named after like copy.
oh
So
God, yeah, no, I just ran into that. I'm working on angularizing the item alert types administration screen. And I ran into that where it's still in the code labeled copy alerts types. I was like, oh God, items versus copies. I'm just gonna leave that aside.
Forever and ever.
Forever. It's embedded. So I thought, one way we might start this is just by doing a collab branch and like doing a regex search on the persist key and like replacing all of the dots and underscores with spaces and like putting that as kind of a placeholder, human readable name. And then we can go through and kind of correct it.
Are you asking
if I
if
get like
people
a
think that's a good
functional
idea?
Saying that's one way we might start. What, Stephen?
Oh, okay.
writing is rewriting.
Exactly. You can't edit a blank screen. Okay, so yeah, to get back around to what you were saying, Ben, I agree, but there's like 3 or 4 steps we gotta put in place just to get to the point where we can show a sensible message of, hey, you didn't have permission to see this thing. Hey, there was actually nothing because your query was bad, or this just got hung up and is just a slow query. Yeah. But yes, I do want to separate those messages so that you get some sort of useful feedback on why you're not seeing anything. Okay. Well, all of that went much faster than I thought it would. That was all I had on our agenda for today. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring up?
If you have the wherewithal within your organization, please consider poking at RESTful API
Oh, yes.
just for the heck forever. I mean, it doesn't matter so much for Feedback Fest. Of course it matters. Everything matters for Feedback Fest. Provide feedback on everything.
I don't know what I would be doing like with the API, sort of as the nature of it being something. Like I would need to be making like an external website that asked for Pines data, probably, or something like that.
You could figure out a vendor, maybe like, and I don't know if it's you or not, who it might be, but if there's like a vendor that it would be appropriately just like start having conversations about if what's there. But my recommendation is before you do anything is you read the documentation and go through pretty extensive example with exemplar that Mike put together, which I guess isn't really testing, but it's learning.
You have a bad case of developer can't read documentation-itis.
Everybody has that.
Same.
It's catching. I say read the documentation, and then I'm the one that screwed up the link for the release because I didn't read the documentation.
That's easy to do because the
because they put it in the preview folder.
Right. It drives me insane. Yes.
I also did not do like test it after. I usually test it to make sure it's a live link. So
you're not,
and I'm not a developer, Stephen. So,
and no. you're not even the only person in this call who hasn't done that. So,
I know.
Yeah.
I also spilled old coffee on myself today. So we're doing great. And drank out of a mug that I thought was clean, but wasn't, and it had like the little dry stuff at the bottom that when you put liquid in, it kind of floats, and it ended up in my mouth. Right. So happy Thursday.
It is definitely that kind of week.
And I had a
Yeah.
bad HTML dream.
Oh,
Who has
no.
bad HTML dreams?
I do, but I'm
I was like, you
in
didn't
the
close
same
the
camp
tag.
as
Oh,
you.
I'm awake now.
Oh, I once, like back in the day, like I have a specific habit for how I type the ahref equals,
hmm
quotes, because back in the day I broke a Blogger site so badly in the templates, just by entering a bad HTML tag in the blog entry, that it broke permanently, and no one could fix it because nobody was answering support at Blogger. So that site was
That's so
trashed.
good and so bad at the same time.
Right. It's terrible.
But you're here to tell the tale, so it's
I am
okay.
here to tell the tale. Lauren, I would love to redo the self-check interface. I think that project has been stuck as like the bottom of people's to-do lists for like 5 or 6 releases now. I think like that new self-check interface actually got bumped several times, if I remember correctly. I'm looking at Taryn because I
Mhm.
know that she's worked on this a bit. Um,
We have it in use now.
oh, you do? Yeah,
In
Yeah.
314.
cool.
Yep.
Um,
I haven't gotten any feedback from it, but
I would love to go through it and like do a big accessibility run at it and all of that stuff, but it hasn't been on our agenda at Equinox, and I don't know who else might have it on there. But yes, absolutely, get in touch and just ping me an IRC, or if you don't have my email address, I'll drop it in the chat.
Could the self-check be the next VPAT?
Oh God, it could.
I mean, it's because it's kind of small
I would be
and it's
more
also public facing.
excited. It is, yeah.
Okay, no, but you tell me what you're more excited
Well,
about.
I would be more excited to get some VPATs on the staff side, but
Oh, absolutely.
I understand that client facing is much more important to folks. I know that it wasn't included in any of the accessibility reviews that we've had. So it's not in the VPAT, it's not in the Nels
You're talking
review
about
that
self-check?
Canada did.
hmm
So it's not included in the big list of stuff that we're working on for BCLC. I would love to see it included in whoever gets the next round of accessibility testing stuff. And if I had spare time coming out my ears, I would totally just do it myself and make a bug list. But
But you don't.
spare time has been in short supply.
hmm
If
Lauren, do
anybody,
you have experience submitting Launchpad tickets?
awesome.
Awesome.
If
Okay.
I have not said this yet, welcome, Lord. I've
Yeah,
seen you in a couple
welcome.
of meetings now, and I'm glad you're here.
You're one of us now. We just take you for granted.
Yeah, we totally do. Let us know if we can help guide you to anything that would be helpful. I know that Evergreen is a large and intimidating project. No problem. We have several folks who participate primarily by chat. It's not a big deal. I hope that you found our new developers documentation, and someday soon we should put our heads together on kind of promoting that to the main developer documentation. I think we need to fold in a few more things from the old stuff and make sure that we don't leave any of that stuff behind. But I know we've got it together now. It's looking good. Like there's still some pieces that need to be filled in, but it's so organized. I love it.
hmm
a big step up from just having things scattered all over the place, at least.
And another thing that is it's on my spare time list, but the thing that we were using to list pages automatically when they had a tag is broken. If the DocuWiki plugin for that broke, I tried to upgrade it and it died a horrible death. So I need to find some downtime, like on a weekend, to try putting either the old version back up or seeing if I can fix the new one. But anybody else who has access to the website, if you want to mess around with that, it's I will find the name of the plugin that broke.
I don't
it's
think I have access to any of the
okay.
administration stuff.
Okay. I feel
There are
like
some other plugins that we use in
Mhm.
our DocuWiki in Pines
Mhm.
that we find really useful.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to throw a list my way, I can add those the next time I get in there and update some stuff. I might have time this weekend. But anyway, what I was going to get at was that we do have some things that are tagged across the wiki, but we can't easily list those in one sensible place right now. The thing that we were using to get an index of them has broken. So I will see if I can get that fixed. Let me make a note because I forgot about it until we just mentioned it just now. And okay. Anything else anybody wants to go over? It has been a while since we sort of generated a new list of topics for our upcoming meetings, and I thought we could spend a couple of minutes doing that if y'all don't mind. But I wanted to make sure that we've totally exhausted today's topics of discussion first.
I look forward to the new devs meeting on form validation,
Ooh,
but that's not
oh, I'm
because I've made a form validation hell of my own creation.
I am banging my head against that wall today, trying to clean up that console error that I introduced in the org selector. And oh my God, like I just Angular, why? Why are you like this, Angular?
Oh, I'm doing horrible things.
I know.
Why have I
Yes.
made a behavior subject for Angular spine labels? But like I have to because
Yes.
I'm saving it all as a huge JSON. But like
Mhm.
to update the behavior subject, I have to do like a partial change function. And because you have like an array of different templates and then an array of like fields inside each of the templates, I need multiple different functions to update it in order, and using partial, which is a thing I have never seen before in, I don't even know if it's TypeScript or JavaScript, but
Mhm. I hate it.
I I've never used the triple dot operator before. I didn't know that existed. It
That's cool. I
seems
like it.
so unreadable.
It is unreadable. I do like it though. It's like I do love it for like changing an array to a set. So I can just quickly like make it unique values and then change it back. It's super handy for that.
I mostly didn't understand any of what just was said, but I'm excited by that operator, which can be used well. It can also be used to make unreadable code, but
Oh, yeah.
can be used very well.
We did use it in item alerts and notes when we had like the user's default preferences, and then we have the stored values that are coming in from like when we're looking at item attributes. we wanted to start with the user preferences and then overlay the saved data and then overlay something else on top of that. And it was like spread operators for this one big object. It was delightful. Really useful in that one instance. Thank you for that URL, Taryn. We'll take a look at that. What else? So yes, form validation. I am looking forward to that. I know that Jane understands it better than I do, and I am hoping to improve my understanding. And Stephen, I'm excited to see what you do with the spine labels, because I'm so glad that you're taking on that project. And
I've been meaning to get it like into a state where it is even technically functional so that I feel okay like making the graph for it. But
yeah,
I didn't realize how large the hill of just making it like save it to the database. I had to decide whether to like scrap all of the old templates or like just use a new one and save it independently of them, which I think is what I'm gonna have to do, because I can't like convert HTML of the old format into like a 2D array, so
well,
everyone would have to remake all their stuff.
you totally can if you parse the HTML.
That's
Which I've done. Like my first big WordPress plugin was somebody told me that I couldn't import pages straight from an HTML website. And I was like, I've got one PHP plugin that scans a directory of files, and I've got another one that'll read the HTML as XML. So why can't I? And I wrote it just to prove them wrong. And
I was going to say some great projects have happened because somebody told somebody that they couldn't do something.
I came back a week later with a working prototype and I shoved it in his face. But
Nice.
yeah. So, and it became my most popular plugin. But
so
it's
is
not
the
fun.
concern, I'm sorry, is the concern about migrating the old templates?
okay. I don't want it to be necessary to write HTML in order to make labels. That's like the hugest barrier to entry, I'm assuming, in addition to it being slightly confusingly laid out things. I have almost working asterisk a prototype where it generates like an HTML page with a bunch of like label sources in a like 2D grid, and then based on physically moving around that 2D grid will populate the like fields that you want eventually in the like end product of the labels, and then a bunch of like extra similar CSS tiddly features of like, is it left aligned? Is it right aligned? Is it justify top? Is it justify bottom? How big is the margins? How big is each individual thing? How far apart are they from each other? What font is it using? What font weight? What font size? And but if I can make it so that you are physically dragging things around and choosing from a preset drop down of possible sources, which I thought would be like technically different, but actually isn't, because like the query of getting things into context for the label printing is like only like a couple tables, which means as long as I completely fill out everything that is in those couple of field mapper tables, then it is able to show everything that the old one did, and possibly more if I like add another one to the query. I've capitalized this just ranting because it is been in my brain.
I'd say it sounds fantastic. And I'm not sure if I was understanding the problem with the parsing the HTML and stuff correctly, but if it is a question of like trying to ease people's transition, I would say I would happily be forced to either use my old templates with the old bad interface or make new templates in the new interface, like I think I'd make new templates pretty quickly, but also like if as long as you had a choice, it would be fine. Like I wouldn't feel the need to import my old templates into the new interface. Like they're not that
Sacrosanct.
well, yeah, like a little change to how things look on the spine label is going to be fine if something changes. And also, like, the logic in them is pretty simple. I can recreate that in a new interface, no problem. Honestly, the only thing I've found that is really a hard thing in terms of like it was a lot of work sending in the templates. Like the interface is terrible and I hate it right now. But the thing that was a lot of work was just getting it to work with my printer in terms of having things line up right. And I don't think there's anything you can do that's going to solve that problem. Maybe you could make it slightly better, but as long as printers are printers, that's
Right.
going to be messy.
That makes me afraid that I'm not even at that point yet, and then maybe like it is actually just all going to be not helpful.
It is going to be helpful. We believe in you.
I I mean, as I said, it sounds amazing. I like the interface right now is an unpleasant place to be. Like you
I
can get your
remember
what you need to get done, maybe, but like you're not going to enjoy it.
I remember migrating some pretty mature library systems on and them asking about printing labels like, all right, everybody, we're going to take a deep breathing moment and just going to realize that this is not going to be the most pleasant part of this process.
One
And
of
that
the
was completely like talking it up.
one of the first things I learned when I started doing tech support in college was printing is the devil.
It is.
This actually makes me
And
think, though, of a confusion I once had with spine labels that is not about the printing aspect. And that is the use of the term, and I'm going to not have the language exactly right, but prefix and suffix. I'm trying to remember what they're called in our version.
That are not the actual call number prefix and suffix.
Exactly. So we have
Yeah.
call number prefixes, suffixes, and then we have, I think, shelving location prefixes and suffixes.
We do have those,
Basically,
yes.
the prefix and suffix that I could put in my template was not the one I thought I was going to get.
Mm-hmm.
So I got pretty excited about what I thought I could do to make my life a lot easier, only to find out that it was not possible. But it was the ambiguity of the term prefix in this particular case had made me so hopeful that it was possible.
We can blame Dan Scott for that. Nice. I haven't blamed him for anything recently, so I feel pretty good about it right now. Yay.
Steven, your screenshot is delightful.
Thank you. Yes, that's what it looks. That's the 2D grid of stuff that you can drag around. I still need to like put the little like dragging icon in the bars at the top of the divs, but yeah, you know. I've this is the first time I've accumulated so many little things like that that it's almost paralyzing, but
Yes,
ugh, big
I feel
projects.
that. Mm-hmm. Big projects are terrible. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. Thank you all.